before I do anything else, a little bit of housekeeping to do here on the vlog. You do not need to comment that the cards here at Peppermill are really bent. I'm aware. I don't think you're gonna find a better poker room than the one here at the Peppermill, but if there's one mistake they made, it's ordering the thousands of decks of cards that they ordered, which obviously, as you can tell, are extremely bent. And no matter what you do, you can't get them to lay flat, like the cards at the Pike in LA, for example. So that is what it is. It's good to be back. Thanks to those of you commenting on the last vlog, of which obviously I showed you right after the birth of my son Austin, which has been quite an experience, to say the least. A lot of sleepless nights, as those of you with kids can relate to, but obviously one that I know I'm never going to forget. Speaking of experiences that I know I'm never going to forget, there's just nothing like the week of the Super Bowl when your team is playing in the game. There's just nothing like it as a sports fan. And whether your team wins or loses the game, which obviously for me could go either way this time, you got to appreciate that week. Seeing your team talked about on all the shows, all the hype to build up the excitement, there's something like it. And I'm recording this kind of at the beginning of the week on Super Bowl week, and then I'm going to record a segment at the end of this vlog with my reaction to the game, win or lose. So look for that. The day actually started off in a very weird way when a viewer of the vlog named Rob from San Diego came after me with the Octo Crab. However, the hand ended up ending in a very unusual way. I ended up making a 9-high flush on the river, and he, obviously, made an 8-high flush, and I ended up winning a relatively decent-sized pot. Gotta respect the effort, though, with the OC. This session was actually the first session on a Saturday that I had played in over a year, given the fact that I have some time off for my son's birth. It started off very poorly. I ended up flopping a set of 8s against a wealthy recreational player and ended up folding on the river when his story of having turned a flush checked out in my mind, so I was stuck over 600 right out of the gate. We end up getting a limp in the hijack from a guy playing a lot of hands, and I pick up 5-6 of hearts in the cutoff and over limp. The small blind folds and the big blind checks, so we're 3 ways to a flop of Jack 7-5 with 1 heart. The big blind leads for 15, which is a full pot size bet, and the hijack calls. So with a pair and 2 backdoor draws and position, I elect to call as well in this loose game. So with 60 in the pot, the turn is the 6 of diamonds, giving me 2 pair. Also bringing in backdoor diamonds, and it gets checked to me. I fire 50 with my 2 pair, the big blind goes out, and the hijack tosses in 2 green chips haphazardly. So with 160 in the river comes a beautiful 5 of diamonds, giving me a boat and bringing in backdoor diamonds. The hijack checks, which I didn't think that he would do with the backdoor flush. So with that in mind, I decided to target a jack with my value bet and size down to only 125. He snap calls. I show my hand, and then he turns over 9-3 of diamonds, thinking he had won. Obviously, he didn't win. I cannot believe that just went and bet call on the river, but of course I also can't believe that he decided to play 9-3. Makes me wish I'd have bet 300 or 400, because I definitely would have been called. Playing 1500 deep, I make a loose open to 15 under the gun with ace-3 of diamonds. I end up getting 5 callers. So with 90 in, the flop comes slightly above average. Jack 10-8, all diamonds, giving me an ace-high flush. I elect to fast play it because that can allow you to get it in with smaller flopped flushes for a huge pot, with your opponents often prone to putting you on just the ace. I bet 55, and the player on my direct left is the only caller I get, and he's a tough player. So with 200 in, the turn is the 7 of hearts. I bet 125, not thinking that he has a flush and hoping that he's putting me on a semi-bluff. Unfortunately, he folds fairly quickly. I suppose a check on the turn could have been a better play in that particular spot. One problem was that I had a winning image in his mind, despite being stuck on the day. That's one case where you'd actually prefer a losing image. The next hand I play comes when I get a late start on filming. I open ace-jack offsuit under the gun, and an older lady, who, believe it or not, can play very aggressively, calls me in the small blind. So with 40 in, the flop is deuce 4-7 with 2 diamonds. She checks, and with nothing here, I simply check it back. The turn is the 4 of diamonds, bringing in backdoor diamonds, but pairing the board. She leads out for full pot, and I actually considered folding here, but with the nut flush draw and position, I elected to call. So with 120 in, the river is the 6 of diamonds, giving me the nut flush. I fully expected her to check here, but she doesn't. She leads for 100. Now this was pretty surprising. No one ever bets out here without having the ace-high flush, or of course, being able to beat the ace-high flush. It simply never happens. No matter who you're playing against, they will always be afraid of being up against it and be afraid to bet out. Now, for some reason in this hand, I was blind to that reality, and I'm not sure why. Perhaps aliens came down and abducted me momentarily and forced me, but I decided to raise fold. I make it 225 total, planning to fold if I got raised, which I don't. I get snap called and feel fairly good about myself, an outcome I didn't really expect. I figured she'd take a minute, though, to call with the king, so I didn't quite know what she had. Either way, we had a $570 pot. I show my hand, and she shows pocket deuces for a turn boat. Kind of exactly what I expected. I already told you my read on the river bet. Very disappointed in myself for not trusting it. And playing 7-handed, I open queen jack of diamonds to 15 under the gun +1. It falls to the small blind who makes the call, as does the same lady from before in the big blind. So with 45 in it comes 10, 7, deuce, 2 diamonds. It gets checked to me, and I bet 30. The small blind folds, but the big blind calls. So with 105 in, the turn brings the 6 of diamonds, giving me the queen high flush, my 3rd diamond flush of the vlog. She checks, I bet out for 50, not wanting to lose her if she has a 10, and sure enough, she calls. So with 205 in, the river is an offsuit 4. She checks, I bet 100, and she folds. So 3 hands, 3 diamond flushes. And the 2 that I had the best hand in, I did not get maximum value. And the one that I did not have the best hand in, I lost more than I should. If you want to know how I ended up booking a loss on the day, that's one indication how. All right, it is about 9:30 at night, cashing out, booking an $888 loss. Yeah, very disappointed with myself on that hand where I rivered the ace-high flush and faced that bet. It just, as I explained, I knew what was going on. And for some reason, I still managed to lose more money than I should have lost in it. So, rough night there. Fortunately for me, the session before this came when I booked about an $1,100 win, so big swings here in 2020. Started the year off with a $2,000 loss, and some big decisions in the sessions since. Still up though, a little bit for 2020, but a lot of work to do. With that said, I'm going to fast forward in time to after Super Bowl 54, Niners Chiefs, and my thoughts on that game.
They have done it. Chiefs are Super Bowl champions here in Miami.
All right, well, you know the result. I said I'd be here win or lose following Super Bowl 54, and here I am on this Sunday evening. I'm recording this minutes, really, after Super Bowl 54 wrapped up. For those of you that don't know, by the way, I was a sports talk radio host here in Reno for 9 years before switching to TV, so I'm kind of using this vlog as a platform to have a few thoughts on the game because I no longer have that platform. And obviously, those of you who are just here for the poker, well, we can see you back here next time. But, man, I didn't think that the pain of losing Super Bowl 47 could really be topped. But I feel like it has. I mean, Super Bowl 47, Niners-Ravens, in February of 2013, the Niners were down huge in that game. I think they were down 24-6. And they came back and had the ball inside the 10 with the chance for the winning touchdown, and of course couldn't do it. But they, of course, never had the game in hand, so to speak. Now, I never thought for a second that here today the 49ers had this game in hand. But when you have a 10-point lead as late into the game as they did, obviously you have to be feeling pretty good about yourself. But the thing that I'm always going to remember about Super Bowl 54, as long as I live, and obviously, the 49ers may never get back, so maybe it'll sting even more. But how in the hell did Kyle Shanahan, a guy who's now proven to be one of the elite coaches, how did he manage to choke in another Super Bowl? I'm stunned. He, of course, had the 28-3 lead over the Patriots in Super Bowl 51, lost that. But in this game, I don't know what he was thinking, and I'm never going to understand. The end of the first half, the game is tied. The Chiefs punt to the 49ers with 1:40 to go in the half. The Niners have all 3 timeouts. Now, I assumed they would use one and then have them punt after that, so they can't let 40 seconds tick off. Well, they don't do that. They let all that time tick off. Then they just run the ball a couple of times. Then they get a play that almost breaks through. Then they throw a play with I think a questionable pass interference. I guess technically it was. There's others that didn't get called that could have gone their way later that also were, but that's neither here nor there. On Kittle that resulted in them not getting any points out of the end of the first half. But taking the refs out of it, there's absolutely no excuse. You're playing the best team in the NFL. You play to win the goddamn game. What the hell was that? You just kill the clock with 1:40 to go and all 3 timeouts? I'm flabbergasted by it. I mean, you need to build a lead on these guys. Did you not see the way they ripped off 50 unanswered against the Texans? Was that somehow news to Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers? You could see John Lynch in the press box. He wanted to know why they weren't calling timeout, why they were essentially giving up. It was beyond ridiculous. Now, obviously, they go on to play really good defense throughout the third quarter. They build a 10-point lead. So we're feeling pretty good at that point. But a terrible, terrible 3-and-out. For some reason, they basically abandoned the run. Raheem Mostert was averaging 5 yards a carry. They were having trouble stopping him the entire time. But we get a couple of deflected passes that results in this 3-and-out, and the Chiefs, of course, drive down and score. So I don't know why they got away from the run there. And then the thing that I'll remember almost as much as that sequence before the first half was at the end of the game, of course. The 49ers were driving. It was Jimmy Garoppolo on the same field that Joe Montana led the 49ers down on in 1989 to score the winning touchdown and win the Super Bowl. And he was doing it. I mean, he was making the right plays. They were driving systematically down the field. 1:40 to go in the game again. And they don't run the ball. It was the perfect opportunity to give the ball to Raheem Mostert. Instead, incomplete pass, and then that 4th down disaster of a play when it should have been called a delay of game penalty. And now, of course, in retrospect, all 49er fans wish they had thrown the flag when they should have, because they would have at least gotten something else off as opposed to what they did, which was nothing. And then that's all she wrote. Somehow they ended up giving up another touchdown after that when the defense was just worn down. But this was a game they should have had. And if there's one thing you knew going into this Super Bowl, obviously it wasn't that they would win, because the Chiefs are just so good that it was never going to be a game where you can assume that, obviously. But if there's one thing you knew, if the 49ers were going to lose this game, it was going to be a heartbreaker. There's no way it was going to be anything else. I mean, look at every game they lost during the season. That game against the Seahawks at Levi's, heartbreaker at the field goal at the end. the Ravens in Baltimore field goal at the end, that Falcons game with that miracle touchdown on the last play. I mean, it was just, no one could just put this team away. So you knew they'd be there. And now this is how it ends. Do I think they have a chance to rebound in the future? Yes, but, you know, you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get like this. It's like sitting down in a really juicy cash game with a whole bunch of VIPs, and you have to leave to go to work. You know, you don't know how many opportunities you're going to have. And this one's going to sting for a long time. But that sequence before the first half, unforgivable. And I'm sure when I have more time to think about some other things that happened in this game, I'll have even more to say. But I appreciate those of you bearing with me as a lifelong Niners fan, as a guy who's watched every meaningful 49er game since 1993. It hurts. So that'll wrap it up for this edition of the vlog. Thank you guys for sticking with me, and I will see you back here next time.